Hello there and welcome to the January 2020 Quirkos live webinar. Thanks for coming along today. If you're watching live or if you're watching this pre-recorded, we're going to go through and show you all the different steps in using Quirkos for the first time. And if you've got any questions, you're free to ask them at any time or contact us at support@quirkos.com afterwards, or check any of the resources on our website. So you can download the full version of Quirkos from our website. There's a 14-day trial of the cloud version and a 1-month trial of the offline version. And what I'm going to do today is show you through the differences between those. So the cloud version, this is where you need to log in. And what that does is mean that you can access your data on all the different devices that you have Quirkos installed on. Your projects will be stored on the cloud server, and then you'll be able to access them in any state. You'll also be able to use the live collaboration features, which are coming at the end of the month. So to do that, you need to create an account. If you've not done that already, you can do that here. You click on the Manage Account button, it will take you to the page here. There's the sign up information here. You need to choose which is the best fit for you if you're a student. And you choose the cloud option here, how you'd prefer to be billed and the currency. You won't be billed for the first 14 days of the trial. So when you create the account, you won't be charged unless you want to continue with the trial. And you've got the option to cancel the trial at any time. You get a warning before you start being billed. So that's how that works. And when you've created an account, you'll be able to verify your email address, create a password, and then you'll be able to log into the account. And on the Manage Account page, you'll also be able to log in here, change any of the elements of your subscription. You'll also be able to see all the projects that you've created and stored on the cloud, and cancel your subscription at any time. So there's a lot more information once you log into the portal there. So that's the stuff that happens on the website, on the web portal. The software itself you need to download and install. And that is identical whether you're saving your projects on the cloud or if you prefer to save them offline. And we also have a static license. So that's not based on any kind of subscription. That's a one-off license fee and means that you just have Quirkos on that one computer and all your data is stored locally on your computer where you save it. But it also means that you don't have an ongoing subscription. And if you need to save confidential data and your data protection requirements don't allow you to store data on cloud servers, then that's probably the better option. But the functionality of the software is identical. So today I'm going to just continue with local storage to use the offline mode. And I'm going to take you step by step through creating a project, bringing in the data and some of the different things that you can do with it. So I'm just going to click here on the new project button. I've already put in here my name. And you'll see here there's a list of the projects which I've created recently. So we can just double click on any of those to open the project. But for now, I'm just going to click on this new project button. We've got options here to password protect the file if we want to, and also create structure questions. And I'll click on the new project again to create it. We're creating it online on the cloud, then that means that we actually don't have any need to save it anywhere else. So it won't ask you to actually put in a save location, which is what it's doing for me now. And I'm just going to put in here actually a USB stick, and this has got some example data which you can also download. So we're going to go to the example project, and we're going to save this project in, well, why do we put it in My Documents? We'll call this Web Demo Project. So that's now saved in the My Documents folder on the computer, and that's where it will be stored. And if we want to back up or save the project, that's exactly where we'll find it. And what we're going to do once it's created that project is to start bringing in some sources of data, working with that data, and then examining how we can kind of code and explore and analyze the project. Right, so here's our new project. So the screen is split in two with this space on the left, which is for our codes or themes. the space on the right which is for our sources. So I'm going to click up the top right here to import a new source. So you can have a blank source, you can choose files that you already have, you can copy and paste, you can import spreadsheet data or a whole folder of sources at once. So I'm going to select some files here, and I can actually bring in all of these at once: Mabel, Barak, Simon, Sarah, Jane. There's 5 sources have been successfully imported, and now we have the text of those sources here. The first thing I'm going to do actually is make the text a little bigger by clicking on Settings, General Project Preferences, and then increasing the size of the text so it's a bit easier for you to see through the video stream. Okay, so these tabs along the top of the screen let us flip between the different sources of text that we have put into the project. And there's a list here of all the different sources, and we can click on any of those to activate them and load them behind the source list. Now we can also give properties to these sources. So the properties are the other ways that we want to describe the sources of data that we have. So for example, we can click on the plus button here and create a property which is age, and we can say that Mabel is 44 years old. We can create another property which is location. She can be based in Edinburgh. So these properties allow you to describe anything that you want about the property. So these might be the characteristics or the attributes. If you're working with a systematic review and you're bringing in sources of literature, you can also use this to put in things like the author, the publication date, the journal, and that will really help you when you come to write up as well. Now when we move to the tab for another source, we'll see, for example, Jane here. Okay, there's no values associated for the age, but we can use the drop-down value and choose 44 if that's right. Or we can put in a new value here, which is London. So the advantage of doing this is that when we later come to explore the results of our coding, we can stratify them by any of these properties. So for example, if we wanted to see just what people over a particular age said, or people who were just based in Edinburgh said, then we can filter those results. And we'll have a look at doing that later. So I'm going to close the source properties here, or you can use the tab to go back to the source here. And here we've got some text to code. So let's have a look and see how we might start doing some basic kind of thematic analysis, some kind of code and retrieve operations here. So the first thing we can see in this sentence here I've chosen, and we usually have toast, we bake all our own bread, I guess it's our own sourdough bread, very fancy. Okay, so but basically this person is talking about toast, so that might be one of the topics or categories or themes that we want to have. So this plus button here creates a new theme, call it toast. Space here to put in a longer description if we need to. Heated bread, I guess, and then you can choose a color, so maybe brown for toast. And then we select the text that's about bread. Actually, all of this is about bread, or toast, sorry, and I'll drag and drop that onto the bubble. So I'm selecting some text, clicking inside it with the mouse button, holding down the mouse button, and dragging that text onto the bubble. And that's the basic way that you code sections of text in Quirkos. If I create another plus button here, I can create another theme. So let's call this hungry, because the person talks about being hungry. And I can put this text, or at least this section of it, onto the hungry bubble as well. So now we can see that this is all about bread, but this section under here is just about being hungry. And what you can see here, we've got these highlights here in this highlight column. And what that does is show us the different sections of text and what's coded to them. So there's an overlap here. So you can see that this first sentence here, this is about hungry, but it's also about toast. So the overlap here tells us what's going on there. And then there's some other things that we can do here. So we can right click to remove the highlights, so to remove hungry from that section of text. But we've also got the undo and redo buttons here. So we can always redo any of our actions at any stage. What we can also do is create some subcategories here. So if we created a new theme, let's call it sourdough. Make that a subcategory. I'll select this sentence here. This is about sourdough. drag and drop that onto that. So I can code that as a subcategory, which is about sourdough. What you'll see is, because I can drag and drop these buttons onto each other, I can create subcategories like this, and this can later on be very handy in managing the different codes that we have. So what we would now do is probably go through, read through the sources of text and keep coding in this way until we're happy. So this is the slow kind of manual process of going through in the coding. But there are some things that will help speed that up. For example, it would be interesting to see where else toast was mentioned in the project. So if we put in the phrase toast, it will now search across all the different sources and show us the results here. So we've got in Simon's source, it tells you the source where it is here. I always use to have toast for breakfast. This little button here can load a bit more text. So we've got this sentence, I always used to have toast for breakfast, and we can drag and drop that onto the toast bowl there. And then we can go through and read. So this is from Sarah's text. For breakfast we normally have toast or cereal. I always have toast. So it's showing us all the different places where toast has been added. And actually what you can see here is that now the bubbles are starting to grow. So the more text we add to them, the relative size is shown by the size of the bubbles here. So we can code directly from these text results. We can also add memos to them as well. So for example, here we've got maybe we'll make a comment about their baking their own sourdough bread. So we would click and drag a piece of text onto the memo column, which is toggled by this button here. And then we can write here something like, they must have a lot of time to spare. So these can be notes about the coding, our own reflexive kind of comments on the coding process, or they can be things we want to come back to, talk to with others, and share in that kind of way. Now, the other thing that we can do is to see all of the bits of text that we've coded so far. So for example, if we double click on the toast bubble here, we'll see listed there's two quotes here, one which is from Simon's source, which we coded using the text search just now, and another one which is from Jane's source. So that's one which we were looking at here. We can see that our memos come up here as well. It's also showing us the results for sourdough, but if we click on the sourdough bubble, it will then actually just show us just the subcategory of sourdough and the pieces of text that are associated with that. So I'll just click on the home button to go back to the main view. So those are the basics of doing the code and retrieve and looking to see your different results. So the next thing I'm going to do now is actually open a project where I've done a bit more coding, so I can show you some of the tools to explore the text once we've done a little bit more. So click on the project button, open your existing. There's no save button, there's no need to save the project, and that's because it's actually it's saved after every action. So your file is constantly being updated, so you won't lose any data. So I now open this breakfast project. So this is exactly the same sources of text, but what I've done is I've already gone through and done a bit of coding, so you should be able to see how that's looking. Just being a little slow here since we're running the streaming software as well. Okay, this project doesn't have coding in it, so I'm going to open the other version of this project that I have. Open other, so that lets me choose another file which I don't have here. So go to example project, coded example breakfast. This is one that's now loading straight from the USB. There we go, right, so this one's actually got the codes in. So it's possible to save the projects without the codes in, and that does mean that you can use the same project and have someone else do their own thematic analysis, and then you can compare how you did the coding. So now we've got some subcategories here. We've done a lot more coding. And so now we can start to use some of the tools to explore the data. So for example, if we double clicked on breakfast here, we'd start to see all of the results which are about breakfast. And then if we go to right click on the bubbles, there are a bunch of other options that we can look at. So lots of people are saying that they like things or dislike things. So let's right click on like here. There's an option here for the overlap view. Now the overlap view shows us which pieces of text have been coded to more than one code, and it counts those. So for example, how many pieces of text were about like and fruit? And in that case that was 2. There were 2 overlapping quotes here, and the thing that people liked most was fruit. So the closer that these bubbles are to the center, the more they overlap with the theme we've chosen, that was like. So out the outside here, nobody said that they liked tea. Did anyone say they liked coffee? Oh, I don't think we have a coffee category. So it's oh no, there is. So there's a coffee category, and nobody said they like that either. So we can start to see patterns which are emerging in the text, and we can do that for any of the themes with the overlap view. The right click here also gives you a bunch of other options. So you can edit the theme, so you can change it to, you can change what the theme is called, you can change the color of it. You can also merge themes together if you don't decide they don't need them. So we can merge positive and dislike together to be just sentiment. We can duplicate it if we want to have those same codes kind of again, and then refine what's in them in some way, and we can delete them obviously as well. And all these actions we can undo and redo with the undo and redo buttons here. So what I'm going to show you next is, if you remember the source properties that we had before, I'm going to show you some of the ways in which we can use those to explore the results now we've done some coding. So I'm going to click on the query view here, and then along the top here you'll see the criteria for the query that we want to run. So we've got here one for property, and that's gender equals male. Let's choose a different one. So let's choose city equals Belfast. Fine. We click on update. Right, so now this is just giving us the results for the people who lived in Belfast. That might just be Simon there. And the people who lived in Belfast are mostly interested in diet. But we can also split the screen in half, and we can look at the city of Edinburgh side by side with the results for Belfast. And for some reason people in Edinburgh were eating more toast than the people in Belfast. Why is that significant? I don't know. So we need to go back to the text and see what the results of that are. And anywhere where you see quotes like this, you can easily select them with the tick boxes here, copy them, and then paste them into some software where you want to write up. So you can always keep those quotes close to your writing. So I'll go back to the main page with the home view, and let's look at some of the options that we have to export. So we can create word clouds, which give us a kind of summary of the text which is in there. Basically this does a word count, so it counts the occurrence of all the different words in there, and usually is the word which seems to be most often, and the size is representing that. There's lots of ways that we can change customize the word cloud, and then you can save it when it comes out. So that's one very basic output. We can also create spreadsheet data if we need to export things to something like SPSS, Excel, or R, where we want to do more statistical analysis. We can also export as a Word document. So the Word document export, that allows us to create these transcripts here with color-coded highlights, just as if they were a real Word document. And that will show us, we can print that out, we can share that with other people who don't have, who have basic word processing software but don't have Quirkos, for example. We've also got options here to export as the RefiQDA Exchange standard. So that allows you to export the data and bring it into other software like NVivo, MaxQDA, Atlas TI, Transana, or something like that. And we also have the option in Quirkos to import data from that format. So it's becoming much easier to move coded data between different software packages. But there's also the report. The report is a much more detailed document, and what that does is give you all of the information about the project, so all the coding, all the different sources, in a kind of way that you can export that as a PDF file, or as a Word file, or you can customize it in different ways. So on the left of the screen you get a preview of how the report will look. So the different tables that we have here to tell us about the different quirks or codes which are in the project. We've got graphs here of the different properties. We've got views of the canvas which we can actually drag and drop into other software if we want to use those as screenshots. And then we've got the options here. So we can print out the report, save it as a Word file, save it as a HTML page, or save it as a PDF file. And so all these options here, we can choose how things look, how things are formatted, and what sections we want to appear. So that's the kind of basics of the software. So Quirkos is designed to have a very small number of very flexible features which allow you to do kind of proper in-depth analysis of qualitative data. So it's not designed for large amounts of data, so thousands of sources. It's not a data mining tool. It's designed to help you kind of be a step up from using paper and highlighters, but keep you as close to the data as possible with these live views and with this color-coded scheme, which kind of really helps you keep track of your data and your codes, and hopefully kind of encourages you to see new things which come out of your data as you code and explore it. So that's the end of the very short webinar for this session. We'll run another one next month looking at some of the new collaboration features in the next version of Quirkos, and that allows you to work on these projects at the same time with other people, to compare what you've done with them, and also to chat with each other in real time. We'll also be introducing a new feature which allows you to do these kind of memos at the kind of project level. So lots of new things to look at and keep an eye on. Don't forget that there's a lot more information about Quirkos on our website. You can download the free trial here without any registration if you don't want to. And all of our documents here for learning Quirkos, there are video tutorials, there are manuals, getting started guides, and these will all help you learn the software. And of course, you've also got our support on Twitter, Skype, Zoom, and also by email and phone. If you live in the UK, you're always welcome to give us a call during office hours. So do get in touch and give Quirkos a try for your qualitative analysis today.